What is up? It's Cord Campbell back again today with Coding Mitta. What's going on YouTube? Let me just check my audio here real quick. I have no video. Oh, there I am. Sounds pretty good. All right. So what is going on? I hope everybody has had a wonderful weekend. It is Monday. It's a little bit in the afternoon, getting a little bit of a late start today. I've been hacking around on the site, and I think it's about time we start making some big changes to the site, but I got to get done with these APIs first. It's just the way it goes when you're doing this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done in the shell. The shell is pretty minimal right now. There's not a lot that you can do in the shell. So if somebody comes into the site, and I'm going to do this little overview, try to get it down to just a couple of minutes. But if you're new to the channel, I'm working on this site called Mitta.us. And Mitta it's a search engine. And it's not designed to be like Google necessarily, but it's definitely a search engine that you can crawl web pages with. So you can tell it to crawl a web page, it'll index it, and then eventually it'll make the entire text of the page searchable just like Google is, and then it'll give you those results back when you do a search. We are doing searches now, so we are able to crawl and then index a page. But there's still some problems here and there with it, and it's not perfect, and that's what the stream's about, is getting it to where it's actually something that can be launched and that people can use. So right now this is the home page. There's not a lot here, and actually if you came in here and tried to use it right now, it's probably a little confusing. I'm okay with that, just because I'm not really pushing the idea anywhere. I've talked to a few people about it, and people come by every once in a while and look at it. But not anything serious, certainly not anything that's going to make me any money at this point. I've sort of lit on the $8 a month thing. That's not necessarily going to stay that way. These are some of the features that I might end up offering. Certainly the 3 sidekick thing has been coded up now, so that definitely works. But as far as like how I present it to people and how I sell it to people, it's not hard and fast yet. So if I were to do a quick demo, which I can sort of do a demo now, we might go over to maybe, let's see here, let's go over to Y Combinator and take a look at what we've got here. Maybe we'll pick some happy news. Let's start with a niche. So it says, start with an ad. Most popular products don't become mass popular overnight. It's a process. Usually their popularity is uneven, and they are unknown in some niches, but very popular in other niches. So probably pretty good advice. So if we want to save this, what we do is we type in Mitta.us, or alternately, we can copy it. And we can go, and if we just hit enter there, it'll go ahead and go over to Mitta, and it'll save it. But alternately, we can come in here, and I'm going to do this on localhost because I'm doing dev locally, and it's a little bit more up to date than what's in prod right now. I usually push at the end of the day every day, so I'll do a push. I'll do a commit, and then I'll do a push. So I'll commit the code to GitHub, and then I'll push it out to prod. But what we're going to do here is we're going to run this command called grub, and then we're going to paste in the URL, and we're going to hit enter. And if all things go well, we should get an image back of the site. If we don't, we're going to go figure out what's going on with it, because sometimes it doesn't work and we need to figure out what's breaking, and well, sometimes it breaks and then we need to fix it. So it was working earlier, so let's see if we get lucky here and we can tell. So what I'd like to do, it's fussing about it. So let's take a look real quick in the data store. And I'm going to look at the console here real quick, and I'm going to search for, it says E is not defined. Oh, that's just because I'm clicking. I got to fix that. So I'm going to search for title and then something like niche. So this should work. That comes back, and then we've got this object that's coming back, and it says, well, that's just the text coming back. Here's the response. And the docs, and the first element, and here's what's coming back. So it's spool JS3, that's a capital S, so we want to go in here and look for that spool. This is the data store that we're using on Google, so Google Cloud's data store. And I'm just going to sort that so that I can find it, and then I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to look for J capital S, so there it is right there. And then I'm going to go in here and look, and it says that I have a file name. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to query my API for the spool. And if we go in and look at the spools, we can do this git use/spool name. So that's what we're going to run right now. So I'm going to do a curl, and I'm just going to run that on Mitta because I know that code is actually okay on Mitta. And we're going to type in the spool, and then we need the token. And here's our token. Normally you can, that's a control insert. Normally you can get your token by coming in here and typing token. That'll print out the token for you if you're logged in. And let's see here. That's not the query I want, but I'll take it. Let's take this one, in fact. Let's just do this right here. So we're going to put in U instead, and then we're going to put in the spool name. And here's our file name. So it is working. I don't know what took so long. Not sure what happened there with the timing on it, but we'll figure that out later. What I want to do right now, is I want to focus on not so much the UI. The UI, we can definitely go down a rat hole with the UI. I mean, there's a lot of work to do in the UI. There's a lot of design work to do in it. But honestly, without all of the functionality of the APIs working, we're not going to be able to get a lot done in the UI. We're going to go a little ways and then we're going to get stuck because we don't have the calls that we need, or the calls that we're making to the APIs are not working the way we need them to work. So today we're going to really be very focused on working on the APIs, and then we're going to try to finish up on the index APIs today, hopefully. So that means deleting the indexes. I'm sorry, deleting the documents that go in. We already have, I think the indexes are, maybe the indexers are being deleted. I don't remember exactly. We'll have to go look. I don't think they're being deleted. So we need to delete the indexes and make it to where we can delete a document and make it where we can update a document. So those three things need to be done. Those are described more or less here in the API docs. We might need to update the docs slightly to get parity between those things, but this is all just coming out of my brain as I'm working on it. As you build something, you can, like where does most of this stuff come from when we work on it? It comes from our minds. We might sit down and talk to somebody about it. We might sketch it out and then go, does this make sense? So I started out with this document on a whiteboard. So I just wrote down a bunch of these methods. I said, well, I think I'm going to need to index things. If you have a search engine, you're going to index things. And then I had to come up with the idea of spools because we have images at Mitta. We image websites. So if somebody tells us to image a website or crawl a website, we're going to image it, and then we're going to put the image into the data store. But then we need to update the index to be able to search for that image and the things that are in that image. So we have a couple more methods that we've got to implement, which include search, and I have some of that done now. So if I take a look over here, I reorganized the files that in the file structure here to make it a little bit easier to look at. This code is not published, so if you If you try to go online and look for it in my repos or whatever, it's not there. The grub stuff is there. The grub box that crawls the websites, that code is there. But this code is closed source. But I am showing it to you. And in this case, for the indexing stuff, I do have some of this already stubbed out, like the delete stuff. And some of it is working, where, for example, indexing is working right now. So let's take a look at what the search looks like for that. So I just indexed this, and we just searched for title niche. And there it is, but it's not giving us, when we're searching here, it's not giving us the image, and I don't really know why, so I'm going to go in here and poke around on it for just a second. So for one thing, I'm sending it to the Sidekick. I don't know if that matters. The Sidekick, when I make that call, the Sidekick code is called from, that's within pages now, so I moved all of these files into pages just to make it a little bit more organized. It's called from shell, so you can actually see the code for shell. So if you go to the website and you say view source, view page source, this is the shell HTML file, and you can see here, right here, you can see that Sidekick HTML call, and all that really does is it just wraps it with some classes, and then it puts the Sidekick ID in there, and you can see the Sidekick ID is the name of the index for right now. So this is the index name, and so you have a way of modulating or selecting between the sidekicks by using the Sidekick function. And then you click on one of these and then you hit enter, and then it'll switch you to that Sidekick. And I think this problem might be due to the Sidekick I'm using. So I'm going to switch to Woozy Chestnut Emu. And then I'm going to tell it to index that page again. So now this should go into Woozy Chestnut Emu. And then I'm going to do a search. And there it came back. And then I believe this was from the original crawl here. So that did work there, and there's the result coming back from my search. So if I did the search again, yeah, there you go. So that is working now. I don't know why it's not working on the other one. So let's take a look at this. It's very weird. We were using Slimy Brown Lizard, I think, when we came in. Yeah, Slimy Brown Lizard. And then we're going to search for that. And see, you can see there it's breaking. Like when it doesn't scroll, like if I do something like that and it doesn't scroll, what's happening here is it's getting to here and it's throwing an error because it can't find that doc file name. So if we go in here and take a look at Slimy Brown Lizard and we do that same search, we're looking for popular. So we're typing in the field name, which is this description right here, is called description, and then we're going to search for popular. And we're going to execute that query. I don't think we're going to see a file name, and we don't. There's no file name here. So something's happening with the grub server on this particular, I actually have no idea what's happening with it. I noticed it earlier, but we can see here that the search is working. Not for this one, but if we switch the Sidekick to Woozy Chestnut Emu, and then we search for it, then it works. And there's our page, which we were looking at earlier. So eventually I'll have it to where if you click on this here, number one, this is a full-size image. So if I just say open this image in a new tab, that's the whole image being shown right here. So that's a pretty fat image for putting in a thumbnail. So we want to, at some point, build a thumbnailer and shrink this down. That won't take very long. We can use Pill or something to do that. But here's the full page. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing next is sending this off to Google so that it'll extract all the text on the page and we can index that as well. But for right now, we've just got the page. Now, I will note that this page, if I were to put this up on Twitter or something like this, I could certainly take the image here and put that up on Twitter. I could save this. But if I post this URL up to the web, you can't get to it. You have to be logged in and you have to own this image. That way, it's covered under fair use copyright. So we don't want to share copyrighted information. So this information is copyright, and for who wrote it as well as where it's published. And so we want to be respectful of that and not share that on the web. Somebody else bookmarked it, we could, like I keep saying bookmarking, it's really not bookmarking. If somebody else told me to crawl this page, that I could maybe pull up this image and give it to them without actually going and crawling it, but I haven't figured out what to do with that yet. So we're going to take a look real quick at what we need to do now for continuing to work on the APIs, because this is what I'm doing until things are not going to get really interesting until I get down to the bottom with tagging. And the tagging API, even this documentation is not fully complete yet, so this will be a little bit longer when I get done with it. But in order to get there, we definitely need to finish the indexing APIs. So let's go through these one at a time and see what we've got and see what the responses are from the server when we do the queries. So the first one we want to do is we want to do this post. So we're going to copy that, and then we're going to paste this in here. You know what I'm going to do? What would be cool is to actually put the user's token in there. I just hate for it to be visible all the time. It'd be cool if there was a copy button or something next to this. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to do that. I'll figure it out later. I don't want to get out on a rat hole. Okay, so that didn't copy for some reason. So let me go copy this again. And we need to change this to where it's the localhost. So localhost is not running HTTPS, so it's just HTTP, regular HTTP. And then 8080 is the port we're running on, and then I need to put my correct token in here. And I've made it to where I can put the token here, or I can put the token at the end as a parameter, even on a post. And so let's see here. Grab my token again. Okay, I don't know why I did that. Let's try this again. Copy. I think what happened is I hit Control Insert by accident. Alright. It says method not allowed. Why is that? And the answer is because we're not calling /i. So here's what we're working on right here. This one, post. So that's going to create a new sidekick. That's a new index. So this is over quota for sidekicks. So what we're going to say now is we're going to say sidekick. And let me go ahead and clear this real quick so I don't have my token up there. And so maybe we'll delete Woozy Chestnut Emu. So I'll switch to Slimy Brown Lizard. Actually, I'm going to switch to Homey Ruby Oyster. And then I'm going to get rid of Woozy Chestnut Emu. And actually, I'm going to do that here. So that one deleted that. And then I'm going to run sidekick again, which just will list it. And we're using Homey Ruby Oyster, but I want to delete Slimy Brown Lizard as well. So what I'm going to do, that's just the index name. So it's a little weird, like the names of the indexes are funny names so that we can sort of identify with them. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run this delete sidekick name. So I'm going to select this again, and I'm going to do a delete here. I don't know if I can pass in the token that way, but we're going to try. And then we're going to do slimy brown lizard. So now it says it's been deleted, so now we're going to search for it. And it's just showing that we have one index. So now we're going to try to run that command again to create one. And it says it's created one, and it's paltry copper kiwi. So now we're going to do sidekick, and we have paltry copper kiwi. So that one works. So we're just going through these and testing them, as one would do whenever we're working on things. So now we have, the next one we have is, let's see, we created this one. Let's do a get I and see if we can return all of them. Now that's exactly what I'm doing here when I'm listing them here. If I look at the inspect of this, I'm sorry, if I bring up the dev tools of this, I can go and look at the network, run sidekick. You can see I'm calling the endpoint/I, and I'm doing a get, and it's returning the responses of each of the sidekicks, or the indexes that are in Solr. So that looks good to me. That's pretty close to what we've got here. We don't have the moods working yet, so we're just hard-coded moods being bored. I'll get into the moods later, but the general idea with the moods is that based on whatever it's currently ingesting, it will move into a mode of one of a couple of different feelings that the sidekick will get about what it's looking at. If we're browsing the web and we read bad news, we might become sad or angry, for example, or maybe even bored. But if we're reading stuff that we're interested in, we could become interested or optimistic or joyful, or we could like totally trust that it was, you know, something we were like to read. So I'd like to have the indexes be able to move through modes of emotion. And you're like, well, why would you have anything have an emotional response? And the answer is, if you want this to feel like you're like a sidekick, like something that's helping you with storing stuff that you're finding on the web, then it helps to have it where it can modulate modes that it runs in. So this is just a way to abstract out that the index itself will move through different modes. And under one mode, maybe if you just take the sad mode, for example, it might respond in a negative tone. And if you'll see here, like all of these things, I don't know why this particular library that I'm using is called name generator. So if we go and take a look at this, that's a name generator for Python. And this is a Python library, and it generates names. And I don't know why, but it always generates where that first name is kind of, I don't know, kind of like negative. It's slimy, homey, you know, paltry. Those are all sort of negative connotation names. And if you think about words or language, especially when you're talking about indexing something, we definitely have negative names, negative context in things. We can have like negative sentiment is what we call it, or positive sentiment. And so I was thinking with like the emotional stuff, you could have like some emotions are negative sentiment and some emotions are positive sentiment. And so with being able to modulate between a positive or negative sentiment for the index can kind of change its tone over time. So if it's being successful in indexing things that you're sending it and the things that it's looking at are kind of positive, then maybe the index will move into a positive mode. But maybe you could have a negative index where it's like just looks for negative things. It's just a way to sort of filter the data that you're looking at, or maybe change the way that the entity or the sidekick is responding to the user as the user is doing searches, just to make it feel a little bit more human. So it's not anything fancy, it's just a real simple approach to sort of changing the mode that the entity runs in while it's serving requests for the user. Again, nothing fancy, magical, or weird, or anything like that. It's just an idea that I've had, and I've kind of coded it up in there. All right, that was a total side detour, but we're going to go back to what we were working on here. So we're going to go to getting a particular sidekick. So in this case, Homie Ruby Oyster. So we're going to just get Homie Ruby Oyster. So I want just a regular curl. I don't know if I have one. This one looks good. I'll just change this right here. And I'm going to say I am Homie Ruby Oyster. And there it is. If you're running curl, what you can do is you can put, I think it's a dash lowercase s here, and it'll get rid of that little like transfer time thing, this stuff right here. And then you can do something else, which in this case, because I'm formatting the JSON, is really not going to be totally useful, but you could do something like Python -m, and then I think it's simple, what is it? It's like, Christ, I've forgotten. Let's look here. Python JSON tool, I think that's what it's called. Type. It's like dash. I've totally forgotten. It's been so long. Yeah, here we go. Well, that's the, oh, here it is right here. -m JSON tool. There it is right there. I have the hardest time remembering stuff like that. I just don't have retention. I don't retain things that way. So I always have to go back and look for it. Okay, so we type to Python. So we got the pipe there. So this is the pipe to redirect the output. And you can see it looks the same, but if we had this, sort of compressed, like if it was just all in one line, this Python -m JSON tool would undo it for us. But I've chosen to format the JSON that's coming out of Mitta right now so that it's pretty, so that you can read it, especially so I can read it. All right, so let's take a look now at the delete function. Well, we ran that already, so let's go take a look at the call for that again. So that's a -x delete, and then we were passing in the token, and then we called the particular sidekick. So does that really delete it would be the question. So I don't, like this one we know is working. This one we know is working because it gave us back the list. This one's working because it created it. But is this really deleting the sidekick? So let's go take a look at that. And that's here in index. It says delete a single sidekick. And so I say sidekick query filter, so then get, and then I'm deleting it. So this is deleting it from the data store. And this is the Google Cloud data store. And so here, that's where it's deleting it from. So it's just deleting it from one of these locations. But then we still have the index. So then the question is, should we go and delete the index from Solr? And I feel as if maybe we shouldn't, because if it's not in here, the user can't query the index. In other words, if there's, you can see here, if I reload this, that I should have like an index that doesn't exist. So this is leaky, let's see, Homie Ruby Oyster, let's see which one we have here. Woozy Chestnut Emu is now gone. So it's not in there, so I can't actually, even though this one is still in here, and I can query it and it has results, I cannot actually get to it as the user because there's no way to change to it. The system will let the user change to it because it's not in their list of current indexes, although the index still exists. So should we delete this? I feel like yes, we should actually, because I don't want to have to go through later and clean these up. I'd have to write something that says, do I have this in the index and should I delete it or whatever. So I think I'm going to err on the side of being complete about it and go ahead and delete it. Maybe somebody might delete it and didn't want to, but we do check to make sure, I think. Yeah, see, we query it and we get it and then we delete it. And if we don't, there's an error. So if we don't find it, if we try to delete something that isn't, let's go back and select that delete, and we'll try to delete one that doesn't exist. Poopy yellow Kirby. It says none-type object has no attribute key. So that's the error. And that's where it puts it right there. So really that could mean, and if we go over here and look, we see it. We also see the error in the log files. I have to be careful about clicking in there because we're blocked. So I think I just want to leave it like that for now, probably. I don't really care if the user can make sense of that particularly. It's probably okay. None-type object has no attribute key. I could say something else. That's a 405 error code. Let's see here, 405 error code. Method not allowed. So you can't delete something that, yeah, that doesn't exist, I guess. So we'll rerun this and see what we get. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we're actually giving them the direct error that we're getting back. And we're also giving them a suggestion that maybe it doesn't exist. Now what we need to do was this part, delete the index to do. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna say Solr 8.7 delete core or collection. Let's go look at our create function. It says cores, so we're going to need to do a cores. Right now we're using a standalone server. So we have the server running here on AppEngine. I say AppEngine on Google Cloud, on Google Compute. So this is an instance that I have running. Later on I'll migrate that to where it's running on Google, on a Kubernetes cluster, and we'll run Solr Cloud on here. But for now I'm just using this little instance just to save money. There's no point in throwing away a bunch of money on it. So I'm going to need to find this Solr delete function. Is this it? Solr delete. I don't know. We'll delete cores and collections on the Solr server as specified. Well, we don't want that. We want the REST call. And I would prefer that I get the actual deleting data. I would prefer to get the actual call. So this is what it looks like here. I wonder if we could just run delete. Let's copy this. Now this is in the solr.py file, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back over to the index one, and I'm going to throw this in here. And I'm going to delete the create collection part. And we'll give this a whirl and see what happens. So we've got the name and the user ID. Using the user ID in here allows us to take the token that they're passing us because of this Flask login required decorator. We're able to determine who the user is at this point and authenticate them, and then only let them operate on an entity that they own. In this case, the Sidekick query to the data store requires that we pass in the user ID, which is then populated by the system using the decorator. But it's done by Flask login. That comes in through this thing right here, the load request function that's stored in main.py. This main.py file, in this particular case, we're going to throw up an example application using Mitta's framework that I've built out. But right now, and it'll be a little bit simpler than this, but right now the load request is handled in main.py. I don't know if that's the best place for it, but that's where it's going to sit for right now. So that gives us the ability to take a look at who the user is that's authenticating with their token. So they pass their token in, I go and look up the user. So once we get to here, we've deleted the entity from the database, from the entry from the database, but we got to delete the collection from the Solr server, or the core in this case. So I guess we're going to try delete. I don't know that we probably need that default config set. That just copies the config set from, it's like the Solr XML file config set, and there's a default one that is on the system when it's deployed using the grub 2.0 Solr deployment script, which is on GitHub if you want to take a look at it. So we're gonna call the config Solr URL, which includes the username and password, as well as the admin endpoint plus cores, and then we're going to tell it we want to delete it. And I don't know if that's 100% right. I'm just guessing at it. Let's see here if we. Okay. What just happened? No results found. I don't know. Let's try admin cores action equals delete Solr 8.7. Here we go. Create, reload, rename, swap, unload. Removes a core from Solr. Active requests will continue to be processed, but no new request will be sent to the named core. If a core is registered under more than one name, only the given name is removed. It says here, delete index. If true, we'll remove the index when unloading the core. The default is false. So by default, it will leave the data in the directory. Delete instance directory. If true, removes everything related to the core, including the index directory, configuration files, and other related files. The default is false. So this is what we want to do right here. So we need to call unload, like that. Action unload. And then we're still calling cores, but then the name, it's core. So if we look at the create, we give it a name, not core. But then when we unload, we give it the core name. And we don't use collection. And then we're going to do a ampersand, and then we're going to do a delete instance directory equals, and then it says true. So something like that, I guess. So let's take a look at this. We've got two substitutions that are going to be done with the formatting. So the config Solr URL, here it's saying the user ID, which is not the case. This is the sidekick name. So that's this thing being called here. So keep in mind that if it doesn't find the sidekick and it tries to delete it, it'll throw an exception and it'll pop down here. It'll print the exception and then return a JSON object. It'll return this JSON dumps and it'll say this error down here, which we've seen that works. Just going to put a note there whether or not we need to set the MIME type. Here we set the content type, I should say. Almost the same thing. Here we set the content type here, but I think that this return will set the content type. I'm not 100% certain about that. I think it does. So yeah. Exception falls down to here if we don't have the sidekick. If we do have the sidekick, then it'll continue on to this try, and then it will try to delete it from the Solr server here. I don't want to print the response necessarily. And this says return true. I don't want a return here. What I want to do is I want to, I think, raise. I think that's right. I want to raise the exception to the other try level. Yeah, here. And then this is just going to be error deleting index and or directories. And then I feel like I just want to do this. Maybe I'll do this. It's a little bit nested, but that's okay. EX. All right. Otherwise, do we want to return success? Probably. Yeah, because we deleted it. That's it. So let's go through this. So under client context, which is basically we're looking at, we've pulled the UID in from login required. So this Flask login include occurs up here. Flask login gives us current user. Because of this decorator, the current user should be set and the UID comes back. Then we do a lookup of the name of the sidekick or the index using the user ID. If we take a look at the models real quick for sidekick, so we have a model down here. We have a lookup function that says get by UID name. So we're passing in the UID and the name, and this is the query. It's very simple. It's doing a single get, so it's returning one result. And then we're deleting the key that comes back. And then that deletes the entry in the database. Then we're going to try to do, is it a get? Doesn't really say here. I think these are all gets. I mean, the create was a get. I don't think that Solr really pays any attention to gets and posts. So this is a get. If we take a look at Solr, which is the old file that I was using for doing this, here's the create collection, and it's a get. These are all gets. So there is no posts with Solr here, even though technically you're posting something by creating it, or you're doing a put technically. I'm going to go back to index. Okay, so we have the Solr URL, which is going to go here, and then we have the core name, which is going to come from the name. If we get an exception here, then I guess we could print response text for now. If we get an exception thrown here from requests, we're going to catch whatever the exception is, stuff it into here, say deleting the index in our directories, while deleting the index or directories, and then it's going to raise the exception to the level of this exception, populate this, print this junk into here, and then it's going to format another result, and it's going to say error, whatever that said, while deleting index or directories, period. Maybe the sidekick doesn't exist. And then it's going to give you it again. Yeah, that's going to say all that right here. That works. All right, so we're going to save that, and then we're going to take a look at the list of sidekicks again. So we're going to delete one of these. Why don't we create a new one? So we got Gloppy Purple Wolf. See, Gloppy is just negative context, I think. That's okay, it's cute. I mean, it's easy to remember, I guess. Okay, so we're going to try to delete that one. Well, what happened there? Copy. Says success. I wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't expect that index to be there. Let's do a test here. So you can see Gloppy is gone, even though he's still talking to us, which is a little weird. That needs to be fixed. If we do a page reload on this, and then we do sidekick, it sorts it around when you reload the page. So you can see here we've been reassigned to Paltry Copper Kiwi, but on the fly it doesn't do it. So I thought that was fixed. I'm going to need to fix that again, I guess, or maybe fix it the first time. Let's create a new one. And let's try to create another one. It says too many sidekicks. Well, all right. So, well, here's a good one. Crappy Emerald Gar. I don't want that guy. I'm going to delete him. So let's tell him to index something first. So we're going to say grub, and then we're going to index ourselves to be polite, so that we're not testing on somebody over and over again. And we're just going to index our API page. All right, and then I'll do a search and see if we have that. And it does, it came back. Now this response is from the index. So we should be able to run this now and we'll get it back. So that's kind of cool. Oh, there's the other one. Interesting. Oh, that's because of that, that's this thing right here. This thing is a 20-second time set timeout. I need to fix this. This is what I was talking about. There's a lot of work to be done in the UI. The UI is ugly. It doesn't work very well. It's confusing. The help doesn't work. I don't know. The sidekicks could be a little bit more helpful with their response codes and things like that. Like this doesn't work anymore. You can't click on this stuff. If you look here, you saw me clicking on the links that the sidekick command was putting out. When you click on stuff like this, it just puts in here and it says hit enter, and then you hit enter. It pre-populates your entry box so that it makes it easier to do stuff. The whole idea is you should just be able to click around and hit enter to do stuff. Or if you want to type it out, you can too. That was my vision for the first version, the PowerShell version of this. So also, if you're wondering here, this is my personal index, which is sort of like it's the history. So I don't have the history command wired up yet, but once, if you come in for the first time and you start hitting up arrow here, you'll get back what you typed in before when you were logged in. Right now it's just like current session history. So these documents are actually documents in the index that are the history of whatever the user typed in. So we're indexing just about everything that is happening on the site, and we're putting it all into Solr. Okay, so let's take a search. Let's do a search here. See what we get back. So we just have one entry, which is our web page, our document page on Mitta, and then what do we want to do here? Let me think about this. While I'm thinking, let me do this real quick. Oh, you know what? That was that way, wasn't it? Don't understand. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with it. And so let's do that and see what happens. This should work. Okay, there we go. No, that didn't work. Did we save it? We did save it. Oh, here it is. Are we putting it in a div? Let's see here. Can I take out this div? I don't think I need that div. Yeah, there we go. Well, let's take this out too. Okay. Now it doesn't work when we click on that. And that's too bad, but it doesn't matter. We'll fix it later. Again, this the UI needs a lot of work, so we gotta stay focused on fixing this stuff. Okay, so we've now done that. Now what we need to do is we need to delete it. So let's switch to poultry copper kiwi, and then we're going to delete crappy emerald gar, like that. And it says sidekick is deleted. So now let's go look for crappy emerald gar in here, and it's gone. Now the key is we need to go look and see if it's on the server. And while that is doing that, I'm going to do this. Error, none type object has no attribute key. Maybe the sidekick doesn't exist, which is correct. Let's see here. We need to go into bar. Let's see, which one was it that we deleted? Crappy emerald gar. There was a crappy red otter earlier. Dorky linebird. So you can see all those got left around, but the one that I just deleted, the crappy emerald gar, which was this guy, he's gone. String property UID, that's great. Oh, errors. Now we've got some sidekick or some index named string property. We'll see if we can remove that. I don't know if I should do that. I don't think it's loaded. I mean, it's certainly not showing up in the UI here. I'm probably safe to delete it. I think that worked. Alright, well that worked. Whatever, I'm not going to worry about the server. This server's going to get blown away anyway, so. Okay, so we've confirmed that delete is now working in that way, the way we want it in here. And we've got it in the index.py file, which is where I think we want to leave these things. I had created this Solr library file for doing this, and some of this is still in use. So the count document stuff is still in use. I think add document's still being used to log the commands that I'm typing in. But eventually I'll come in here and I'll pull all this out and just delete this file. All right, so let's go back. And so this is fully implemented now. So let's take a look at post I sidekick name. Send a document to a sidekick. So we have an example here which is saying cat data.json. So let's go in here and see if we can find that. This is in the static directory, which is just all the static files that the server serves. You'll notice here, I didn't talk about this earlier, but I've got this chat window up here just so that I can see if people chat. I've been checking it periodically as I'm flipping back and forth, and nobody's come in yet and said hello. So hello if you come in later, and hello. Be sure and come in. I'll start scheduling these on a regular basis so that you can come in, and maybe it's more predictable as time goes on. We have lots of these to do. I figure there'll be 100 episodes at least before we get done with the site. So we're just on 17, so we're about 20% uploaded so far. So we have another 80% to upload. That's a lot of work, and yeah, it'll be a few months before we get done with this for sure. So I'm just gonna keep plodding along. Okay, so let's take a look at the example that we've got here, which is this data.json file, and we've got a source type spool created. So I feel like what I want to do here is maybe check. Maybe check the. Let me do a query on the spools that I have. Let's see here. And that's U for upload, and that's the spool, so you upload the spools on Mitta. And that's going to query for all the spools. And then we're going to do token equals, and then we're going to pass it that token. And there you go, there's a bunch of spools. And let me do that little trick where we put in the -s so that we don't get that upload. So you can see all those there. So let's just take this one right here. So this is really just a list of documents that are of all the spools. So it's kind of like local cache of documents that are spool types that include the file names. So what we want to do is we want to make data.json have that same format. Whoops. Nope. What do we copy? Copy. Paste. I don't think that I want the file names. I'm still struggling with that. I think I will put the file names in there. I'm just thinking about this, like, do I need to put a duplicate in there? I'm storing it in the data store. That's a little bit troubling. I don't think this is valid JSON. Yeah, that's not a valid. You can't use a single tick in there. I thought I fixed that. I swear I fix things and I think, didn't I fix that? And it's like, I thought I fixed that. We're looking at spools here. Spools. We said we have this for tag in spools tag. If not last loop, put a comma. So I got to put a quote like that in there. And then the same thing goes for the file name. I don't know why I had those single ticks in there. I've gone back and forth with this. And I assume this one works. Is that true? Let's see here. We want to look at a particular so that's the list, and what we want to do is we want to go and look at a particular spool. So spool DQBPDX6ZSJYB, and that looks quoted correctly. So let's just double check, make sure we're being sane here. We don't want our what we need to do. I'm sure there's someone, well, maybe no one's watching this, but if there is someone watching it, I'm sure there might be someone going, where are your tests? And the answer is, my tests are right here. This is my test. So at some point when I get done with the APIs, I'll take all of these and I will write some code that says, do this query. Create a spool. Take the spool result that you get back, do a query, another query for the details of it, pass it to a JSON validator, make sure you're getting back via valid JSON. I will do all of that when I get done with the APIs. Some people write tests before they write their code. Some people write tests after they write their code. Sometimes tests are like functional. Sometimes they're not functional. Sometimes they're just like procedural. Like, does this work if I make these calls? Sometimes you have to chain tests. I don't know. I'm not a testing framework guy. I've never done that. That's never been my job. I write code, I try to get things working, and then other people take over and they make it more sane than whenever I touched it. But in the case of doing this on my own, it's a little difficult. It's a lot of work, and I don't have all that time, all that much time to do stuff. So maybe I should do it that way. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe you should comment about it. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it. I am planning on putting all the tests in place for the APIs. The APIs definitely need tests. The rest of the code, I feel like I don't care if it has tests or not. It just doesn't matter. I'm the one that's touching all of it. It should all work when I get done with it. At some point it will break, and then at that point when we start breaking it, when multiple people are working on it, we'll get more testing in place. All right, so that looks good. So we're okay on spool. This one was just, I guess this one was just wrong. I don't know. Is this going to work? Let's run it again. Well, that looks better. Let's take this one right here. That's not a copy in this because it's a weird program. I got to do Control Insert to do it. And then we're going to go over and we're going to check JSON validator. And then we're going to validate that JSON. And it says this is an error. Is it because it's got a trailing comma? Was it that way earlier? I swear I fixed this. Yeah, it's expected a string, which means that that's this comma that's the problem. It says here int if not loop last, for file name in spool file names, if not loop last, end f, end for. And then we got if not loop last for the spool and the spools. It seems like that would come after this. So my response would be So for file name in spool file names, just looking right here. So this is a Jinja template. I think that's right. No, I don't remember. Some sort of template. What is the template? I don't want to mislead people. Flask templates. What's it using? Jinja. So it's a Jinja template. So this is what we're talking about right here, basically. So we have this loop last thing. So it says for tag in spool tags, which is a list, show the tag. Okay, so that one's working. The for file in spool file names, show the file name. If not loop last, do that. So if it's not the last one, then in for, then put a comma. And it says if not loop last, end f in for spool in spools. I think this is just an errant comment right here. I don't think there's anything more complicated than that with it. Let's run this again. So there we go. And if we had multiple ones here, so let's put that dash s back in there. Hello! Go to the front of it. Where is it? I don't know, I've locked up my console now. There we go. Okay, Control A, dash S. Alright, let's go up here to, let's see. This one looks kind of complicated. How about this one right here? I mean, I should select the entire thing, but I'm not going to do that. All right, Control A here, Control V, validate JSON. So now it's valid JSON. So that looks good. Okie doke. All right, and let's go back in here and paste in our new file, document type or document for testing. Okay, and let's save that. Now let's run our command. It's a long, windy path to do this. So we're going to send the file to the sidekick. Now, we can call this function, this thing right here, with this stuff. So we can call, we can do this post by posting this document. And the way that we do that is done here in Grub. Try to keep these closed so that we keep things simple. So we're going to go into Grub. And we're going to do a post right here. And then we're going to post the data response from this thing right here. So this is actually supposed to be a response. Yeah, these need to be updated. So these are all going to be responses instead of spool, and then we'll have, it'll look like this. Then we'll have a source type of spool in there. So this object will be called the response. So I need to update these. I'll do that here in a minute. We'll stick to this. That is going to stay that way, I think. Because this is not something that gets indexed, whereas this is something that gets indexed. Okay, so let me go over here and take a look at this. So I've got I've got this like discrepancy here. Like this is called source type all one word. So let me go over to, I feel like maybe it should be like that. I think that's the way I'm going to do it. Here. And here. Okay, let's rerun this. We'll actually do it on an existing spool. Now what is that? So we've got a list of responses. That's fine, I think. Because this should have parity with this. So this is also a list of responses. If we do a more on here, we can see that. Nope. More command not found. Okay. So we can see there that's a list of responses coming back. Okay. Let's switch over to localhost on this. Here. So let's take a look at our static JSON data right here. And then we're going to go into edit our pages. And why is shell duplicated? Who knows? I hope I didn't delete the wrong one. It's probably fine. API. And then we want to go down to data.json and we're going to paste in this file. Paste. And we need to fix this. Here. First type. Gotta be consistent. Okay. And let's reload this. Okay, that looks a little better. And we have some file names in there, that's good. There's no reason why that can't go in there into the index. I mean, you can put whatever you want in the index. It's not really putting the files in there. It's just saying I have some file names that match, that go into this particular document. All right, so moment of truth. We're going to do this curl post application, and then we're going to post it to a sidekick that's active. So let's look at our sidekicks again. Well, we've got paltry, copper, kiwi. Let's create a new sidekick. And that'll switch to it. So we've got muggy, cerise, eel. Cerise? I don't even know what that means. A bright or deep red color. Cerise. Cerise. Okay, learn something new every day. Okay, we're going to go over here. We're going to say that we wiped out our copy here. So we're going to paste that in first. And then we're going to go, it's muggy cerise eel. Did I spell that right? Cerise. And what? Token equals, and then we need our token. And then I'm going to go look at the docs real quick and see if there's anything else I need in here. There's not. And then I need to be in the right directory, and I am. It says result error invalid token. Interesting. You don't like my token? Is that right? Doesn't feel right. I don't think that's right, but who knows? Let's see here. An error occurred, and this is the fail. Okay, well that's on Mitta, so it doesn't really matter. That should work. But let's run it locally, and we can see what the problem is. 179 in index. So let's take a look at what we're getting as an error. 179. Right here. What do we post it as? Data? Data JSON. For document and JSON documents response. I wonder if this is this. Do we have a response? I don't know. I don't know. It says success. I think that's right. This should just be the post. So if we print this, should be the JSON document, I think. It should pop out over here. Yeah, here it is. So this is just a list of documents, and documents being just a dictionary, like a JSON dictionary with some stuff in it. Like what Solr wants is sort of like a flattened list, so you can pretty much give it anything you want. And you can see here, in the case of this source type right here, I actually didn't do this right, but there you go, source type text. Now let's go back over here and do this. We'll post it again. And so it's saying I posted to Muggy Cerise Eel, Muggy Cerise Eel. So we'll reload this so we can see Muggy Cerise Eel, and then we'll do a query. And then in Muggy Cerise Eel, and you can see here, there it is right there. Actually, that's the wrong one. So I'll just search for it here, and there it is right there. That's the one I just did. So if I wanted to, I could create a new file. We will always have to have an array here. So source type equals text. It's text because it's not anything else, and so this would just be some text that some user enters. Boop. And then what we could do is we could get kind of fancy with this, and we could say title, no title, description, no description. We're going to save that. We're going to go over here and we're going to upload it using test.json. So there was a success. You can see here we're not returning anything in the document section, so we need to fix that. But I'm going to go over here into Mitta's interface, and I'm going to say search and title no. Muggy Cerise Eel. Anything? Anything? There's those links. And let's run the same query here. See what happens. Title. No. There's the entry. let's go take a look at the inspector. So we're going to clear the screen just real quick. We're going to go to inspect. We're going to go to console, no, network. And we're going to clear out all the other network stuff. We're going to say search. And that's title. And then we want to look for no. We have a response back. It says number found 0. So let's take a look at the query that we did. We've got a search title no. The headers here show that the search is title no. Of course, there's a semicolon in there, maybe. So the shell uses an alternate method, and the reason why is because the shell takes in this search. There's a command that gets entered into the shell by the user, or it can be entered in by the system itself. So the system can submit a command to itself, or it can suggest a command to be submitted by the user by hitting enter. So there's kind of 3 modes that it can move in. In this case, don't know why that colon's not coming through. So let's take a look here and see because we're calling /j, that's the JavaScript handler, endpoint handler. Just taking a look at our time here. We've got 40 minutes left. Stream's going pretty smoothly today, so that's good. So let's go into the shell handler. Try to keep these cleaned up a little bit here. The shell handler here. I don't need either one of these. Alright, the shell handler, and we're looking at the /j endpoint, which is the JavaScript. So this is the JavaScript endpoint. This is what handles the line stuff. So it says here, we're going to get the line, we're going to build the line, we're going to process the line for commands. So we've got search, so that's going to populate search in there. It's going to load the search.js file, which is this thing. So it's going to run this, and then it's going to do a search to the Sidekick ID, and then it's going to pass in the line. Let's go back and take a look at our inspector. So we see it passing that to /s and the index, and then it's passing in the encoded line. So this line's been encoded. So there's a %20 there and a %, what, 3F on the other one? 3A. Okay. So then we're not getting anything back. We saw that here. We're not getting any responses back. We've got 0 found. But there's the query. And the FQ is updated. Oh, you know what? We don't have an updated in here. So here we have an updated. We have a created. And in fact, if we don't put that in there, then what that FQ does is it basically says if you take all of the documents that are in the index, it will make that a superset. So the superset becomes the FQ. So you say, give me all the entries that have updated, and then it takes that superset and caches it, and then it'll run the query, the Q query here, title equals no. So let's see what happens if we resubmit this. Well, that's the data one, so let's resubmit that one. Now let's run this, and we should get a result back. And there it is. So in this particular case, we've got like some requirement that whenever the user submits it, we have to have an updated. And I don't feel like that's reasonable here. I mean, if we are taking it, then we could take it. Maybe they should give us something else. If they want to do their own timestamp, they could do something else. But what we need to do when we're indexing it here is we need to say something like that. So let's try this again. Now we've taken it out. Should have taken it out. Where'd it go? Here. Test. So we're posting it to Muggy Cerise Eel. Posting it to localhost. My code's wrong. Here. Let's print the document and see what happens. So here's the document. And do we have updated in here? Right there. Why did it print out all of it? Oh, we're running the data one. This one's the one we need to run. Blocking. Updated. Now we can do a search for it. There it is. And there's updated. So now that should carry the right field so we can do the search. Nothing. Really? Am I blocking? I am. And there it is. Okay. We're set. So let's take a look at what we're doing next. So this one says number of docs indexed. So what are we returning? Documents. We're saying timestamp. That's the timestamp for the query. So that's the timestamp for the query that we made. So if we do another query, you can see you're going to get another timestamp. And then it says documents here. So I guess if we're returning, where are we returning that at? It says index response. So this is under API index response here. So we proposed that we would do something like timestamp result. I don't know what's the normal? Yeah, it's timestamp result request URL. Is that how we're doing these other ones? Timestamp request URL result. Kind of inconsistent about timestamp request URL result. Okay, I guess I'll leave it like that. I guess then it's number of documents. Num docs indexed. And then this is some number. And that's being called from index. So here, timestamp request URL, comma, num docs indexed equals num docs indexed. And then we want to do right here, we're going to say num docs index equals 0. And then we want to go down here and we say num docs index equals num docs index plus 1. All right, we're going to rerun it and it should say 1. Okay, great. Now we'll rerun it on data. It says number docs index 2. Great. Let's go to a search. There's some more of them. Let's do source type equals text. Not equals, colon, text. Yeah. Great. All right, let's delete this index. So we'll switch to Paltry Copper Kiwi, and then we'll delete Muggy Cerise Eel. Okay. And go over here, and we're going to do a query. Not found. Perfect. Refresh. Muggy Eel's gone. Okay. It's interesting. In here, like you can do, let's see, where is it? Core admin. And then you can say unload. But there's not a way, it just says, do you want to unload it? And then if you unload it, then it doesn't delete it. Like slimy brown lizard, I think we're done with slimy brown lizard, right? Yeah. So if I unload it and I say okay, then that doesn't delete, it doesn't actually delete the directory, so I don't know. Anyway, there should be an option there, but there's not. Sometimes I bash on Solr and I shouldn't. Like the other day, I think I was bashing on it because you have to have the add in there, but you don't actually, as you saw here, we don't actually have to have it in here anymore. Used to, I think you had to put the add command in there to add it or something, but now you just give it a list of documents and it'll totally ingest those. So this is ingestible now. So I mean, you could create any type of document you want and send it to Mitta. So you could come into Mitta, you can log in, and you can run Sidekick, and then those are indexes that you can send data to now. I mean, it's just as simple as that. I could probably even do like a little help here, and you could click on it and give you the curl command for it, and then you can just send documents to it. And then the whole idea is from here you should be able to search it, just like I can search title, something like that. I guess I don't have anything in this index. Let's see here. Do I have anything in Homey Ruby Oyster? Yeah, I do. So you could, you could like send data in and then query it here, and there might be a way later for me to provide some sort of dynamic like handling of the view of the document, but because documents can have pretty much whatever you want to put in them, obviously I'm putting in like a date stamp. Whenever you're sending it to me, I date stamp it and put it in there, but that's pretty standard fare. So you could send me event logs, and I could you could then search in the UI for event logs. So this is not exclusively locked into only bookmarking sites. I'm trying to make it general purpose. It's like a hosted Solr offering is what it is under the hood. So, but I'm trying to make it extensible enough that you can kind of create little mini applications with it. And the first application I'm creating is this sort of like URL saving function, but that's not the main point of the site. So, and like right now, I'm kind of in this sort of flexible mode of creation of the offering, and I want to make it where it's easy enough to manage some indexes and delete the indexes and send data to the indexes, but also have access to that inside of the shell for management, such that well, we can end up doing something interesting with it, which is going to happen when we get to dealing with the taggers. So when we start dealing with the machine learning taggers, it's going to get really interesting, because what we can do is we can start running machine learning algorithms on this data, including the image that's coming back. All right. So what do we want to do next? So we've done this. This works. I want to confirm that works. Let's see. That's it for sure. So let me copy that, and then I'm going to just toss it into the API here. Okay, watch very carefully. I think it just swapped it around. That's about it, and renamed it. So there we go. I'm going to delete this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put that in there like that. What happens when update is already set? That's a good question. Maybe we want that to say created. If that were the case, then we're going to have to go in here and do this. This seems like a horrible idea, but maybe it's not. Sidekicks? Here? It says created. Well, that's the sidekicks, not the spools. Spool. Yeah, created. And then this is created. And then spools. And then this is created. And this is created. Because that's when the spool gets created, right? And then we want updated to be updated when we index it. Here. Think about that. So we reserve the word updated for when it gets, the index gets updated, and then created is whenever it gets created, and that's what we store in our data store, which is here. So we look at the spools here. There's no sense in having it updated in here. Because even if this gets updated, you know what I could do is I could add a created, and then it gets added. So I could have a created and updated in here, and then I could have it to where everything has an updated inside of the index. I feel like this might break something. Look at all this stuff I've saved. I'm gonna have to get rid of all of it. Sniff. I've got like 105 things saved. Do I have to get rid of all those? I mean, if they're set, it's set. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. But if I'm trying to format something that doesn't exist, it just will be blank, I think. So that might error out actually though. Let's lift our spools again and see what happens. That's it. Yeah. Has no attribute created. So I'd have to delete all the spools. It's kind of not advantageous to, it's not advantageous not to know when it got created. It'd be good to know when the spools were created. Just gonna have to bite the bullet and do it. Okay, so now I have to actually fix this. I have to fix this in here. So we have to go into our models and spool here and say created. Now the question is whether or not like spools are sort of a special case in that they're stored in the DB as well as the index. And I don't know that's necessarily a good idea, but I'm planning on only storing this information in the spool, but then in the database I would store like whatever comes back from the tagger as well. So there's like this, and then there's a copy of it, and then you get extra metadata inside of the index. So this is like a simplified version of the spool. It's the URL, who owns it, the name of it, where the upload URL is, title, description, and tags, if any, and then the file names. So I think created makes the most sense. See, here I have updated. Here I've created. Here I've created. Sidekick has created. Setting has updated. But a setting, who cares when it gets created? We don't care when a setting gets created. So updated is better for a setting, because then it's like, well, when did it last get updated? That's probably even worthless as well. I don't think it really matters. Like the only thing that you might want for the update is to sort the settings by their update time. But for the spool, it's like what's most important is when it got created. Like the creation date is like when you created it. So we want that to carry through into the index, I think. Here. And I don't think there's any reason to tell the system, there might be. There might be a reason to say updated, because what we could do is we could query. All right, so we're going to index it, and then what we could do is we could start pulling the index. So let's walk through this real quick. Let's delete our sidekicks. So let's delete poultry copper kiwi. And then let's create a new one. And then let's delete homie rubber oyster. And then let's look at our sidekicks. Those are our sides. So we have woolly white gecko. And then we're gonna crawl our website again. Oh dear. Let's reload here and see what happens. Well, that's unfortunate. Let's see what's happening here. School has no attribute updated. Well, that's good. We know there's going to be some problems with that. So it says here, line 93 in crawl. Here, 93, right here. So at the bottom of this, spool create. Let's go take a look at spool create. Spool create right here. we're pulling down updated. Yeah, updated right here, created. All right, let's try that again. Okay. Spool object has no attribute updated in line 108 in crawl. 108, 108. Oh, in crawl. Here. 108, updated, client context. Oh yeah, created. Oh, here. It says if not spool, create the spool, else we're going to update the spool. So we're going to update the spool created with the datetime UTC now, which we don't want to do because it's existing. Limit the length of strings and check them for security. I think I've done that. I think that's all handled. So build the return object values created equals spool updated is shift time spool updated time string. So that's formatting it, and then we're returning it here, and then we're saying updated here, and this is actually created, and this is created, and then we're going to search for updated. And this is created. Yep. All right, let's run this again. Great. Oh, not great. Okay, what's the error now? String object does not support item assignment. Where was string object? Why is that a string object? Line 181. An index. I don't like that error. It makes me nervous. What's this? Print document. Blocking. Non-typed object has no attribute SFR time. Create spool created SFR times time string. 107 in crawl. I've just broken all of it. 107 here, created. Build the return object values. Created equals spool created SFR times time string. What does it say here? None type object has no attribute SFR time. Well, that's because it's probably broken. I probably created a spool object that's broken here. Let's see here. Yeah, it's null. So let's delete this. Let's try this again. Did we print it? Response. What does that mean? No idea what's happening here. 182. What says what? It says 182 document updated equals timestamp in index.py 182. So why would JSON documents be empty? Is there something in here? What are we doing here? Yeah, it's not gonna work. Because it's not populating this. Maybe the clue here is that this is null. That's the clue that something is wrong, is that should be created. updated is null, because why? So let's do this. So let's go into here and grab updated, do a recursive updated. So settings, that's fine. What is this? Those are the instructions. Index.py document updated equals timestamp. That's fine. Because that's actually us updating the document in the index. Here's models, NAD by db time. I don't know what file line that's on, but that's probably okay. That search, we don't need to do this one. Flask line user created, settings, upload, spool updated SFR time in upload.py. Here. Here, right here. Build a return object value. Create a spool for storage. Build the return object value is created. Right? Build the response here. I love that you can type created with one hand. Here, here. Yep. The spool objects no longer have updated. They'll get it whenever we put it into the index. It'll get an updated timestamp when we put it in the index though. Here we got some more of it. That's actually uploading to it. And we're looking it up. So we're not creating it here. So this is actually updating it whenever it's I think that's fine. Yeah, we're not actually updating it to that. We're just formatting it. Okay, I don't see it anywhere else. So let's delete this again. And then what do we want to do? We want to rerun this. Nothing. Blocking. String object does not support item assignment. Yeah, so it's saying document is 182. Alright, we're gonna go back over to our, we're going on a loop here. We're gonna go back over to here, we're gonna look at this, so now that should be set. Updated equals null. That's not any good. Create is not set. Okay, so updated equals, this is all in upload. This is in search. This is in models, crawl, index. It's not index. It was upload. Let's look back in models. Did we saved everything? Created. That's the sidekick. Created. That's all there is. fast things break. Okay, so inspect when you get brutal with them. Okay, so we're going to do this. To grub. So it's to crawl. We're getting an error in crawl. This has all been saved. It says here in crawl 107. Well, and that's because the spool is not being created with, if we delete this one. Do we have another one that's working? This is the sidekick. Wait, did we change the sidekicks too? Jesus Christ. Did I accidentally do that? I think I did. Because this is updated. Models. Yeah, I did. I changed it to created. Alright, I'm going to change that back. Because maybe the sidekick could be updated. I don't know that it matters whenever it is updated. I don't know. I don't know if it matters to remember when it's updated, I should say. So these have updated in them. This has updated in them. So those should be okay. So now let's see if we can... Let's see if we can rerun that. There's our error. Now it says document updated, and then we should go look at the spool. We're going to look at this, and it says updated is null. And we have no created. So let's delete this guy again. Go back to spool. We have no other spools. And then let's... How many times have we tried? Lots of times. Wow. Okay. So sidekick. See, there's an error right there. That's no good. Web model sidekick has no attribute created. That's happening in index. Where's that happening at? Sidekicks JSON line 7. I don't know why I updated that one. I remember doing it though. And then when I watch this, I'll remember doing it. Updated, I'll be like, don't do it, don't do it. So there's some error here now still. None type has no attribute. Okay, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna have to delete these guys. We're gonna have to delete the sidekicks. I guess. I don't know why. I would say created in there. Okay. And then we reload this page, we should end up with another sidekick. If all is working. Are we blocking? Yes. Alright. Sidekick. Great. Cozy beige donkey. Cozy's pretty good word. That's a positive context word. Okay. So now we're gonna say grub. Yes. Mitta.us/API v1. Boy, we've gotten in a rat hole here. I'm still got an error. Okay, document updated timestamp. string object does not support item assignment. Okay, so now we want to go look at the, let's look at this inspect again. And here's where we did there's our response, and it was created. Oh great, our spool is now correctly created. Then we did this query here, and our response spool created. Name, spool, upload URL, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then, what's the story here? Response? There was no response for the spool. I don't understand that. So let me go back. Maybe it was because it was already set that's why I could update it. That was what it was. So it's in the index. I say here, print document. Did I print the document? That's the question. What's that? I'm going to go here. I'm going to say print wood docs. None type object has no attribute SFR time. Let's go look in the database. It's going to be disappointing if I can't get this fixed. I know I'm going long here. Yep, I'm 1 minute over. I got to fix this quick. See, it says updated here. Right there. Oh, this is I'm sorry, this is Sidekick. Okay, spool. Don't get here to yourself, cord. Okay. It should say created. It says created is null. So when it's creating the spool, it's breaking. So what creates the spool? So let's delete this, because that's not going to do us any good. Okay, there are no spools. And then what we want to do is we want to look at crawl. I'm just going to say spool creates a spool for storage. So spool create. I'm going to stick this next to models, and then here's spool create here, and it says created equals datetime UTC now create. That's it. And I have created up here. Created. I'm going to search for created. Created right there, and then I put it. So if I call this here, and it says datetime.utc now created. And I create it from crawl here. So with client, build the return object values. If not spool, create a spool for storage. Spool equals spool create. Else update the spool we have with title, description, timestamp. Well, we're not going to do that anymore. So we say if we have it. So if we've already created the spool, if we've already created a spool with that URL, then we're going to do that. So then we're going to do a spool create here. So let's print the spool. We got to do with client context print spool. I'm going to keep this one rolling until we figure it out, because this is a good troubleshooting session. I don't know what's going on with this. A little disappointing I ran into it so quickly, but I did commit to making a mess. We're blocking again. There's that error. Now we should see the print statement here. Spool created datetime. Here's the created function. So now we're going to go look at it in the DB. here. We look at it and we have nothing. We have updated equals null. And no created. See somebody's token. Created. I have no idea what's happening. It should be kind of obvious, I think, but. So I'm going to take this. I'm just going to paste it right here. That's exactly the same thing. I'm going to go up to user and I'm going to look at created here in user. So I've got this entry right here. Under create. There's nowhere else in here. Under spool, let's look under create here, under user. Create, being called with CLS and that, so it's not being called with created. We've got spool, and we've got create, and then we've got this created, so this should be the same thing. That's the exact same thing. No ifs and ands or buts about it. I'm putting it, I was printing it. I have no idea. It's definitely a problem. I don't know if it's a problem with maybe the DB. It's kind of my feeling is it might be a problem with the DB. We're going to go up here and we're going to see that it says spool, key spool here, created, datetime, blah, blah, blah. That's normal. File name, spool, tag, whatever, UID. That's the whole shebang. So if we go back in here and reload it, I guarantee that we're going to see an entry with nothing created. And there's an updated right here where it says null. That's so weird. It says it right there. NDB model. There's got to be something wrong with the database. I feel like maybe. Maybe it doesn't want me to. It doesn't want me to succeed. What are you doing, Google? So is there anywhere else? This doesn't make any sense. Like, in my upload, in the upload code here, we're going to create here, it says created. It says created. And then we're using spool JSON. It says created. That's just the response that we're returning. So in crawl, we're going to say if line, read the line, no URL, if not spool. So we're going to look for the spool. If we don't have a spool that's got that URL, then we're going to like create the spool. It's going to call UID, URL, title, description. Then we're telling it to print the spool. Else, with client contacts, we're going to say created equals spool created SFR times time string. This is where we're getting that error. But the spool created should be set, but it's not, because when we're creating it, it's not set. It's definitely not set. And we're returning it here. Well, I don't know, this is a good one. It's a puzzler, so I'm gonna have to wait until the next episode to figure it out. It's too bad that we didn't get a little bit more done here. We got sort of caught up in that, but we need to be able to delete the documents is the last thing that we need to do. I think the search stuff works pretty well. This stuff we got working, so this is really the last thing that we need to do is deleting the document. But until I get this other problem fixed, I'm not going to be able to get into it. So it's a head scratcher. I'm sure I'll figure it out here in a little bit. I feel as if it's probably something to do with the entity thing. So if I rename this entity, it'll probably work. So I think that's probably my next move, is to rename this. In fact, I'm just going to do it right now. We'll see what happens, because I think all we have to do is change crawl in this. So we're just going to call this spool2. And then in crawl, we're going to import spool2. And then we're going to have some problems with index, I think. Probably 2. We're going to have to call this spool2. And then search. No, we don't have to have it search. Upload, it uses spool as well. Spool2. Now we have to find spool everywhere. It's not. I'm committing. I'm doing it though. 2. All right. Oh my God. Spool2 create. Otherwise, we're going to get errors in here. That one's fine. Spool2 there. I think that should be it. Nope, there's one more right there. Okay, we're gonna save that one. Then we gotta go into search. No, not search. Models. Models is already saved. We gotta go into index. Find spool. Oh, that's the only place it is. Really? Okay, whatever. I guess that's true. Crawl has spool, so spool2 here. Spool2 here. Manually searching. Spool. spool 2. Spool, 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 spool. Spool 2. All right. Here goes nothing. So let's try this again. It's broken. Yeah, of course. Site, line 20. Is it actually in here though? Yeah, right there. One more time. Great news, probably not great success. Internal server error reported. There it is right there. Now let's go back in and look at it. I must be doing something completely ridiculous. It becomes obvious now. There is nothing called spool. What's going on here? Data store entities. Why isn't this called spool 2? Models, spool 2. What the hell? That doesn't make any sense to me. You know what? I bet you a nickel. Let me do this. Yes. Okay, let's restart this and try it again. Yeah. I'm just checking here. I'm not using production. I don't think that it would even matter. I would notice it. There's spool 2. There's the entry. And created. There you go. So that's it. I wasn't doing that earlier. So it's some sort of like caching thing with Google or something. I don't know what this means. Okay, so let's try to figure this out. So it says string object does not support item assignment. Line 183. Response. So that's in index, right? Is that right? Index 183. Here. So I'm telling it to print the document, and then it's not. What is going on here? So print JSON documents. Let's try this again. I think, should I delete that spool? Let's look at the spool. Let's actually refresh this. It says created, so that's working. It wasn't working before. We're still getting sort of the same error. Let's delete this. And then we're gonna run this again. We're gonna get the same error. Locking, maybe. Enter server error, and then we're printing. So we're printing this response source created, name, spool. Yep, that all looks good. File names, there are no file names. So it's working. Well, I'm just going to take this out here. It says add document. Let's go look at add document and for document and JSON document, Solr response add document. So this is in Solr here. Add document. It's taking the document. Let's see if that works. So there's something like I need to figure out that assignment error. So we fixed it. So we're kind of like in a good mode again, and I'm going to go ahead and push this. So if you like this video, be sure and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Give me some comments. I don't see anybody's come in today and said anything, so I'd love to see you come in and say something. Maybe I'll do something special for you. Like maybe you can ask me some questions or something if you come by. I'd love to see you in a subsequent episode, and I'll start scheduling these sometime in the next week. I'll start putting up a schedule so that it's at a regular time. You can expect it at a regular time. But otherwise, if you just give that notification bell a check, you should be good to go to know when I'm live. Anyway, I'm Cord Campbell. This is Coding Mitta, and we're on our way to building a new company, really. It's a company's made out of software anymore. A lot of tech startups are made out of software, so this is what I'm doing to try to do a startup, and I'm glad you're here watching me, and I hope you have a great day. Take care. See you later.